The real estate market is the hottest thing going right now, but we have so many questions. Is this the time to sell a house, buy a house, and how long is this market going to last? We wanted to go to an expert, someone who's been doing this for 20 years and has won multiple awards. Today, we sit down with Cynthia Williams of Lifestyle Real Estate.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
And now I would like to welcome Cynthia Williams, owner of Lifestyle Real Estate, to the Charleston Women Podcast. Cynthia, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I think a lot of people might recognize you if they're watching this on video because you have been doing this, the real estate industry, for 20 years. You're all over the place. And that's why I'm excited to, sit down and really take away some of your knowledge. So I just want to start with, can we go back to the beginning? Because I feel like everyone's a realtor nowadays, but you've been doing this a long time. What made you get started in the career?
Well, I was in corporate America for 15 years, and it just wasn't fulfilling. I handled a $48 million account, and it was very stressful. And I just got to the point where I just felt like I wasn't adding value to my life or anybody else's because I was stressed out all the time. And I just decided to resign and walk away with no job, nothing. And I kind of stayed out of any career for about 3 or 4 months. And then my father said, are you going back to work? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just kind of like deprogramming myself. And he's like, well, do you know what you want to do? I said, I really don't have a clue. He said, well, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I'm like, no, I actually haven't. I said, why do you ask that? He said, well, I know you love houses and you love people. He said, you're always talking about a house plan book that you bought at the checkout at the grocery store. And he said, you're always, showing me house plans. And he was right. I mean, I could buy the house plan books and, say this is a Donald Gardner plan, the bedroom's on this side of the house. And it just made sense. And that's pretty much how I ended up getting my real estate license.
All right. So how do you go from the point of becoming a new young realtor and figuring it out to eventually saying, you know what, I am going to start my own company, go off on my own, do everything, on my own?
Well, I'm a late bloomer. And I say that because I didn't start my company till about 5 years ago. I always knew that I was an entrepreneur, even from the age of 12. But as far as getting into real estate, there's not a lot of training. I mean, some companies will give you like the quick path of training, but it's really a lot of, I hate to say it, trial and error and making sure that you're with a good company. And I spent many years with a lot of the big box companies like Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker. But you get to a point where you know what you're doing, and sometimes you don't really need that. And the entrepreneurial spirit that I always had told me that eventually I would do my own company. But I think what held me back is, owning a company and running a business is a lot. And I just was looking for let me just go and, make money and have my life. But I always got to the point where I thought, well, if I owned a company, I would do this. And it just led me to waking up one day saying, I'm going to do it now.
So not only did you say, I'm going to do it now, but you also brought your children into the fold. You have 2 children, your son and daughter, both work for you, Brad and Megan. How is that going? And I asked this as a mom of 4, how is that dynamic, having your kids show up daily and say, yes, ma'am, yes, boss?
Well, I wish they would say boss. That's a joke, obviously, but they actually call me mom. So it's funny because, I've been in real estate 20 years. Brad's been in real estate 10 years at least, or maybe more. And Megan's been in real estate a long time. She was actually a licensed property manager. And they're both, award winners in their own right in the real estate industry. But when I started my company in 2018, my son was working for another real estate company, and my daughter was a property manager for another company. And everybody would say, when are your children going to come to work for you? And I would say, oh, I'm happy. I'm doing my thing. They're doing their thing. Because I never wanted them to feel like they were pressured to come. And then the next year in 2019, my son's like, don't you think I should come and work with you? And I'm like, if you want to, now it's totally your decision, you know, because I didn't want him to say, well, you made me do this and it's not working out. But he came on board with me. And I will admit, the first year was a little bit of a struggle. Yeah. Because he had his ideas of things he had learned at other real estate companies. I had my ideas of the way I wanted to run my company. And it was a little back and forth. And I'm like, oh my God, we're not going to make it. But eventually it just changed and everything just clicked. And then by the time my daughter came on board, it was kind of like smooth sailing. And now we get along so great. We've always been super close. I mean, we're like the three musketeers. But it's great. I mean, I talk to them several times a day. I see them several times a week. And, you know, the synergy with us, I couldn't ask for a better situation, honestly. Really great.
That warms my heart to hear you say that. I mean, it's right, your dream come true that you're still with your kids when they're adults, still together every day.
Yeah, we still like each other.
You still like each other. It's a huge win in my book.
Everyone's talking about real estate. The conversation continues with Voice for Real Estate podcast. Listen and learn from the experts who call the Carolinas home. Podcast advertising gives your business a voice of authority. Be heard. Advertise on this podcast. Visit voiceforrealestate.com.
You're listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
Can we talk about just the real estate markets? Because it is, I mean, it's been crazy recently. And what do you see? Because I've repeatedly heard about the problems of lack of inventory. So are we still seeing that? And also, when does it come to an end? You know, when people say like the bubble's going to burst, we can't maintain this. Do you agree with that?
Well, being in real estate 20 years, I went through the market crash of 2008.
Oh, sure.
And I've seen the ups and downs. And, you know, I've been to so many classes and so much training that I don't think people realize that real estate is very secular. And when I say that, they say that it changes about every 7 to 10 years. So if you go back and look at the cycle from 2008 to where we are now, you'll see that actually is pretty true. Of course, everything in real estate is driven by the economy, the real estate market, what the government decisions are being made. This causes a lot of changes. When I first started looking at the inventory back when we considered it a normal market, which whatever that is, the amount of homes in our MLS was anywhere from 6,000 to 6,500. When the last couple of years, it's actually been down under 1,000. Right now, we're hovering around 2,600. So if you look at 2,600 homes versus several, not too long ago, 6,500 homes. It really is different. That's caused an increase in prices, the multiple offers that you're seeing, So for buyers that are just looking and making offers and not 100% serious, then they're not going to get those homes. But if you're serious and you're looking to buy, and you stay in it, then you'll get it. The interest rates have risen. I keep up with the interest rates. I mean, they went from being in the low 3s to, getting right close to 6. And now they're back down to like around 5. But I tell people all the time when they say, oh, I'll just wait for the market to, go down. Well, then you're really waiting for a market crash. And that's not good for anybody in the economy. My first house in 1982, the interest rate was 13.25%.
Oh my gosh.
So when people say they're upset about 5%, 6%, or maybe even 7%, they don't have a clue. Because to me, this is a great rate.
Right. It's all perspective.
It's definitely all perspective. And I think education is the key for, a good realtor to explain those type of things to the buyers and the sellers. As far as when is the bubble gonna pop? I don't think it's a matter of the bubble popping. Charleston is number 5. It's in the top 5 of best places to live in the country.
Right.
I actually talked to a lady yesterday, and she was from Manhattan, and she's like, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to get to Charleston. So when you have people with that mentality, it will cause the prices to stay up. And, like I said, you'll have to be a little harder at negotiation. last year and the year before, it was definitely a market that I had never seen because you could throw a house out there for, $500,000 higher than what it really should have been listed and somebody would buy it. I actually thought that was pretty ridiculous because that's definitely not a good way to have a healthy market. And we're not seeing that anymore. I think some of the prices are still a little bit inflated, but not as much as they were. We're starting to see that if you don't price your home right, it's starting to sit on the market longer, sometimes 30 days, a little longer.
Oh, wow.
We're seeing a couple of price reductions.
I mean, there was a time, I don't know, I can't remember who I was talking to, but they said, like, you don't even need to do the pretty photos right now. Like, you can just slap it up there. And not only will people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably more than it's worth, but they'll also pay cash. Like, that's what there's a lot of cash from people that are moving, like you referenced, moving to Charleston. So for those of us that are just sitting here in our home saying, like, oh my gosh, it's worth so much. I say all the time to my husband, should we sell? But his point is always, where would we go? So do you have that on the flip side? Locals who are like, man, I could make a bunch of money, but then you're still going to have to spend a bunch of money to move.
Well, I have that question asked quite often. And what I would say is if you're going to sell now. Yeah. Because, again, we're seeing the prices not as high as they were before. So if you're going to sell, now's the best time to get the most, money for your home. Where do you go if you can't find a house to move into? Like, say you find something you really like. Be a strong negotiator. I mean, sometimes you're still having to go over list price. But what I found is people like yourself that sell your home, and even me when I sold my home recently, I negotiated a lease back for 90 days. So the days of jumping out and having to have someplace to go, it gives you time to figure that out and see what's out there. Be willing to go into a short-term rental for 6 months or a year. And then if you find something, you can always opt out of your lease early. But it's just a matter of, are you ready to do it? Because you have to be ready.
Right. What would you say to a lot of people that are shifting right now? A lot of people since the pandemic hit have switched careers. They're working from home. All kinds of new doors and windows are open. A lot of people I've heard recently say, you know what, I want to be a realtor. I'm going to jump on this trend. Like, they're making so much money with the cost of these houses. But I know, I'm not a realtor, but I know it's not as easy as it looks. What would you say to someone who's like, I'm just going to get my license and become a millionaire?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Yeah, I love this question. I've had people say, oh my gosh, I love houses and I love HGTV. And I'm just thinking, oh no, real estate is tough. It is tough. I feel like that if you have a passion for it and you are a hard worker and you understand like being consistent about what you're doing, you're going to be fine. But for somebody that thinks that we just unlock a door and become millionaires, that is not the way it is all the time. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say this on camera, but I mean, I'll have clients text me at 10, 11 o'clock at night. It just never stops. And I love that. I love my clients and we love, everybody that we work with. But, it's a hard job right now. Of course, 2 years ago when we were throwing houses in the air and people were buying them in less than 24 hours, that was way too easy. And I think that's what a lot of people get into real estate for, because they say, oh my gosh, they make all this money and they, don't even have to do anything. The chances of that happening all the time are slim to none, because there's so much back end work that we do that nobody ever sees. So I would just say that, it's easier to get your license than it is to make money in real estate. So if you're with a good company that wants to nurture you, mentor you, help you, you may be fine. And being self-employed, I mean, all real estate agents are self-employed. So that means that you have to set your own hours. I mean, of course, working for a company, there's different things that we want you to do. Come to meetings, come to training. But you can't get up one day and say, well, I'm going to work today, but I'm not going to work tomorrow. I mean, you really work more hours when you're self-employed than you do when you work for someone else. So just understand exactly what it means to get a real estate license. But I love it. And I hope everybody that has a real estate license loves it too. But we're seeing a lot of people right now drop out of real estate, as a matter of fact.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, don't have that consistency to stick around. With that said, what's next for you? I know you have how many agents working for you? Did I see? Is it 20?
We have 20.
Okay, that's wonderful. Are you looking to grow, or do you like the size that you are currently?
I am looking to grow. I think every company wants to grow. We were up to 30 agents at the first of 2020, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And of course, that took a toll on some of the agents. Some of them moved out of state. Some of them got out of real estate. So we kind of downsized I'm a firm believer in quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. So we had some heart-to-heart conversations saying, are you going to work? How do you feel about this? So we've hovered around that number for the last couple of years, only because of the inconsistency in the market. Mm-hmm. And so when I feel strong enough as far as, taking people on, because I want people that have the passion, mm-hmm. they're just not here to hang around. Mm-hmm. So when I get somebody like that, I love having that person. We just brought on a new person who came out of the teaching field, but I do want to grow. I've thought about adding a property management group to the company. There's a lot of ideas, but right now I think slow and steady stays the course. Mm-hmm. And until we get over these uncertainties, I'm really content with where we are right now.
Right. And what a gift for those new realtors to work with you and all your knowledge. I'm just going to throw that in a little bit. It would be great for them, for sure. Finally, if you were not in real estate, what would you be doing? I love this question. If you could do anything else, not that we know that you're passionate about it and you love real estate and your clients, but if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, where would you like to be?
Well, the reason why I like this question is my answer is probably going to surprise you. So in my younger days, I wanted to be a licensed general contractor and build houses.
Wow.
But as I've gotten older, I know you're going to think I'm crazy. I would probably be a comedian.
I love it.
Isn't that a surprise?
I had no idea what you were going to say, but that was not on the list.
I know it makes people laugh. They're like, I can't believe that, because I come across as so serious and everything all the time, but it's because of what I do for a living, mm-hmm. dealing with, contracts and stuff. But I just love to laugh. Yeah. And I would have to be one of those type of comedians that I just look at somebody and just make a joke. I can't come up with the jokes. I'd have to it just have to be spontaneous. But I just think just watching people and, even I even make myself laugh sometimes. And I'm a hard person to make laugh. So if I can make myself laugh, I think I'd be a really good comedian.
You know what I'm going to tell you to do? I think as an outlet, you should just open a TikTok account and just start telling jokes. You'll probably have 100,000 followers before you know it.
That would mess up my real estate image. I promise you.
Just do it under a different name. No one will know. Hey, before we go, Cynthia, I love your story. I love how you took that bold move to start your own business. What advice do you have to the women listening to this podcast? Because we have a lot of business owners. We have a lot of people too that are maybe just looking to make a shift in their life and do something new at maybe a later age. What would you say?
I would say listen to your heart. Again, my heart told me all my life I was an entrepreneur and I held back for different reasons. But listen to your heart and don't be afraid to take a chance on yourself. You know you just like I know me. I know what I'm capable of. So if you know what you're capable of, why are you holding yourself back? I think that we're all here to be the best person that we can be. And, owning a company is hard. It's not easy, but it is so rewarding. And be dedicated. If you fail, just get up and try again. Mm-hmm. And then take everything serious. And then when you have a bad day, just laugh about it and don't let it break your spirit. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like you can do anything that you want to do if you put your mind to it, and just don't give up.
Cynthia, such wise words. And as we leave today, I want to hear more of your jokes. So you tell me later.
I'll tell you later.
I love that. Thank you for your time today. To all of our listeners, this has been Cynthia Williams of Lifestyle Real Estate. Cynthia, the best way to find you is online at lifestylerealestatesc.com and also on social media, correct?
Correct. Look forward to hearing from you.
All right. LifestyleRealestateSC.com for more information. And you have been listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.